Pensioners in the UK are about to gain a lot more control over what they do with their funds on retirement. Changes announced by the British Chancellor George Osborne in last week's budget have spurred debate both in the UK and here on what's the best way to help citizens provide for themselves in later life. Well, we're joined in studio by Samantha McConnell, Chief Investment Officer with IFG. Samantha, first of all, you might just explain to us what exactly did George Osborne announce?
I think the biggest change he brought in, Conor, was he eliminated the requirement for all DC retirees to take an annuity or buy a pension at the point of retirement. So effectively now DC members have three choices. They can either draw down their income over time, they can buy an annuity, which most people won't do because it just costs too much money at this point in time. Or thirdly, and this is probably the most controversial option that it gave people, was they have the ability now to take all of their cash up front. And as Boris Johnson said, this is the Lamborghini and caviar brigade that will now hit. There is huge controversy over that, is that the big fear is that people will take all of that money and effectively blow it in the first couple of years. And ultimately, you're left then with a much poorer population in retirement. Now, you could argue, why did the government do it? Well, effectively, it's the ability to front load all of its tax revenue from pension income over the next 10 years. And initial stats show there's a huge uptake in government revenue from that.
For DC or defined contribution pensioners here, though, how does the regime compare? It's not exactly like for like, is it?
No, it's not. We eliminated the requirement to take an annuity about 2.5 years ago. And effectively, annuity rates here are even lower than they are in the UK at 4%. So effectively, if you're in a defined contribution pension scheme, if you're lucky enough to have a large pot, you can take your tax-free cash up to €200,000 and then effectively put it into what's known as an approved retirement fund, which will allow you to take an income from then on until the point it runs out. We also, though, do have the option for you to take cash up to $500,000 at your marginal rate of tax. Now, if you think of that, that's $500,000 that somebody can take into their pocket at the point of retirement, which we believe is more than adequate to meet anybody's short-term income needs or cash needs at that point.
Are we moving, though, by the sounds of it, to a regime where people will have a lot more control over both how they save and then how they receive their money on retirement? Absolutely.
I think ultimately that's where the industry is going. The growth in members in DC has been quite phenomenal over the last 4 years. That's only going to continue to grow given the demise of defined benefit schemes where the employer effectively underwrites your pension. So people have to take control over how much they save and ultimately what they do with the money when they get to the point of retirement. What was interesting in the UK scenario as well was they provided this right to advice at the point of retirement, because effectively there is now what's known as the advice gap. It is not worth people's while in the industry to provide advice to people with small amounts of money. The government is now going to, or is talking about, levying the insurance industry to allow them to provide that advice to individuals. And I think something similar will probably come in here.
Samantha McConnell, thanks very much. We'll have more business news coming up in an hour's time. Keelan.